walking the earth. Today we're at Patan Durbar Square. Directly behind me is the Bhimsen Mandir. It's the temple dedicated to Bhim. Now Bhim is very important to the Nawari merchants, to the traders. But he is very, very famous throughout India and throughout much of South Asia as one of the 5 Pandava Brothers from the epic poem, the Mahabharata. And he's known for his strength. He's like a Hercules type of figure, known as a strong man. But here in Nepal, he's also related to good fortune. And so people come here, business people will come and visit this location. And this temple, it's very interesting. The detail, so it's a brick pagoda, 3 levels, and it's got some very intricate woodworking and metalworking throughout the whole thing, from the door all the way to the top. At the top, you've got a chaitya, an umbrella over the top, similar to what you find on Buddhist stupas. It's interesting, the curvature on the corners of each level of the pagoda, and you almost have like kind of a pyramidal structure, like the way the pagoda is laid out. It's like pyramidal going up and with cubes in between, and then the woodwork is very, very, very detailed, and as is the metalworking, and Patan is very famous for its metalworking. Now as far as the details, some of the creatures have various heads. Like above the door, you have creatures that have almost demonic heads. I'm not sure who they are. They look like guardian deities. And then perhaps again, that might be Ganesh, the elephant-headed god. They got multiple arms, in which they carry various symbolic implements, and also it suggests action and the ability to do many things at once. Some of these guardian beings seem to have 6 arms, some 8 arms. So it's quite interesting to me. And then you have some guardian deities at the front, or guardian lions at the front, I should say. And in another video, I briefly discuss the lions. Asiatic lions basically had territory in ancient times extending out by Bangladesh. Maybe they came all the way up into Nepal, but certainly into the Gangetic region and straight across northern India. I don't know if they went as far down into the Deccan or if it was more within the Gangetic Basin and the Indus River Valley area. They extended across what is now Pakistan. I don't know how far up into the stands they extended in Central Asia, but they certainly extended across Iran, and were even being hunted up into the 19th century and maybe into the 20th century. They used to roam Anatolia, I believe all the way to the Aegean, and then they were found in many areas of the Middle East, including Iraq, Syria, the Sham region, down into the Jordan area, and then kind of around the peripheries of the Arabian Peninsula. And then you had a different kind of lion, the Barbary lion, that I think started from, I don't know if there was a cross-mixing area in Egypt where the Asiatic lion meets the Barbary lion meets the African lion. Perhaps you might know more about that and can discuss that. But what I can tell you is that the Asiatic lion, the only place that they are living in the wild that I'm aware of is in Gujarat at Gir National Park and the surrounding area. So you can still go and visit and see them. So they're used as protectors in front of many temples, and you can see them in front of many temples in the Durbar Squares here in the Kathmandu Valley. The lions are used on top of at least some of the Ashoka pillars and are a symbol of India to this day. And lions have been utilized by many royal families and many warrior groups since ancient times. So I'll go ahead and just briefly about Bhim and the Pandavas. They're associated with the Mahabharata, the great epic poem, and like in which the part of the Mahabharata includes the great Bhagavad Gita, which is all about duty and ethics, and is the conversation. I think it's called Song of the Lord, and it's a very important literary story. It conveyed one of the great stories of human history, where Krishna is the chariot driver driving Arjuna, and they're at the battlefront, and the Pandavas are about to enter into battle with their cousins, who were their teachers, their friends, their relatives. And so it's basically a discussion about, should we struggle against those who are our relatives and our friends and our teachers ever, or should we renounce and then be renunciants and go and live in the forest and avoid violence? And this had to do with some great conversations and debates that were taking place in South Asia leading up to the time of the Bhagavad Gita and a bit afterward, where you had the Shramanic movement of the Buddhists, the Ajivkas, and the Jains in conversation with those who followed the Vedas and the Vedantas and the Upanishads, and the traditional Vedic peoples, that those three shamanic movements, the Ajivkas, the Jains, and the Buddhists, they were rejecting the Vedas and Vedic culture, and thinking about nonviolence. Many of them came from Kshatriya warrior backgrounds, from ruling classes, such as the Buddha, such as Mahavira of the Jains. And so this was part of an epic conversation. So the Bhagavad Gita is part of the Mahabharata. You can learn more about the Mahabharata and Bhim and his brothers in places like Kurukshetra in Haryana, which is historically part of the Punjab, which now is divided into 3 states. One very large, predominantly Muslim and Sufi-leaning state in Pakistan, and then the other half is divided between a Sikh state called Indian Punjab. And then that's the Sikh religion that's dominated there with the Amritsar and the Golden Temple. And then Haryana, which is predominantly Hindu. And this includes Kurukshetra, which is a place of the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, and also in Buddhism of the Mahasatipatthana Sutta was recited there by the Buddha, which is all about the technique associated with Vipassana. So you can also learn more about Bhim and the Pandava Brothers up in Uttarakhand at one of the Char Dham sites, Badrinath, which is associated with Shiva, but is also associated with the Pandava Brothers as they made their way deep into the Himalayas. So, and there are many interesting stories associated with them. I have not had the opportunity to read the Mahabharata. I read the comic book version of it, and I read about it, and it was fascinating. I'd like to read it at some point if I get the opportunity. But Bhim is a very important character, and he is a strong man. His name is very popular in Southeast Asia, and somebody very dear to my heart is named Bhim, but in Thai it's Bhim. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about Bhim. He's very important in Nepal, in India, and he's important in Southeast Asia, in Thailand. I'm not for sure if Bhim is a common name in Bali to this day and other Hindu areas of Southeast Asia historically. Perhaps you know and can tell us about that. But this is an interesting temple. One last thing that I wanted to mention before continuing on is you will notice the golden belt that's coming down from the chaitya at the top, from the umbrella at the top, and it extends just above the doorway. And one side is a little bit longer than the other, and it's layered going down, and it's very complex. It looks like it's got writing. I don't know if it's written in Nepali or in Sanskrit, but I was reading about these things because you see them on many of the temples, and I suppose it's supposed to be related to the deities, whether they're devas or whether they're gods or goddesses. Like when the devotees are down here and they're leaving offerings, they're leaving incense, flowers, fruits, sweets, money, whatever it might be, oil lamps, light, leaving light for their gods and protectors. then the deities will use these things as a slide. So it's interesting. So they will slide down these is the way it's envisioned. Now, I don't know if that is the complete understanding or if that's kind of a common lay understanding of these devices. And I'm not sure the history of it. Perhaps you might know a bit more about it and can direct our attention to a more accurate understanding. We also in front of it have a column with some kind of a creature. From the back, it looks like it may be a lion or a hybridic creature. I'm not certain about it, but you will notice them all the way down. This is Patan Durbar Square. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and a number of the temples have these columns with some kind of a creature that is showing devotion toward the temple. Now, behind, if you look at the door, there are a number of guardian beings, and you can see a little bit of what may be the top of the shrine inside. Now, this is a Hindus only temple. Only people within Hinduism are allowed within it. I am not sure if they have caste requirements, if it's only for the twice born or if it's for anyone who is considered a Hindu. I know there are very sophisticated, complex delineations of who's considered Hindu or not, and there are rankings, and I'm not particularly knowledgeable about these things, but I wanted to just point out a little bit about the Bhimsen Mandir. The Mandir, it's a type of temple, and Bhim is not only the strong man of one of the 5 Pandava Brothers of the Mahabharata, but also he's very important throughout much of South Asia historically, and his story would have been known all the way up into Central Asia, maybe into the Irani borderlands and beyond. It might have traveled along the Silk Road. I've never looked deep into the importance of the Mahabharata beyond the fact that the Bhagavad Gita is to this day considered to be very, very important as a philosophical text and as a theoretical text, as well as conveying important information about earlier historical times, various debates and trends within South Asian cultures, debating violence versus non-violence, duty versus renunciation. So we'll go ahead and discuss that in another video. But until next time, keep seeking knowledge and be happy and be healthy.